I'm walking through the Reformation series that Desiring God put together to give you a fuller history of Christianity. Join me.
Hey, welcome to The Explainer. So, you've almost certainly heard the name Johannes Gutenberg, right? Of course you have. But the story we're all told about him, the one about how his printing press basically kick-started a religious revolution, well, what if I told you that story is one of history's biggest misunderstandings? I mean, seriously, think about this for a second. What if the story we've all been told gets one of the most fundamental details completely wrong? What if the man we credit with paving the way for the Protestant Reformation was actually a devout Catholic working for the church? All right, so first let's just lay out the story we think we know. This is the popular version, the one you might have heard in school. It's the one that paints Gutenberg as this accidental reformer, a kind of unwitting hero in a story he never even knew he was a part of. You know the one. It goes a little something like this. Gutenberg. He's this brilliant craftsman, but he's kind of down on his luck. He fails at a business making these little metal trinkets for religious pilgrims. And then, bam, in a stroke of genius, he invents the printing press. He uses this incredible new machine to print the Bible, getting it into the hands of everyday people for the first time. And by doing that, he accidentally lights the fuse of the Protestant Reformation. It's a neat, tidy, and really powerful story. And honestly, this quote you see here, it just perfectly sums up the whole myth. It frames Gutenberg as this underdog, right, and ne'er-do-well tchotchke maker who was chosen by God himself to spark this massive religious change. Okay, so that's the story. It's a great story. But how much of it is actually true? This is where we need to start digging a little deeper and separate the historical facts from the really compelling fiction. Yeah, this table really helps break it all down. So first up, did he invent movable type? Yes, absolutely. That part is historically solid. But was he an accidental reformer? Well, that's a massive simplification. And the whole idea that he paved the way for the Reformation, that's actually pretty misleading because it's looking at a 15th century Catholic guy through a 16th century Protestant lens. And this right here, this is a huge piece of the puzzle. The myth says his goal was to get the Bible to the people, but the historical fact, his great masterpiece, the Gutenberg Bible, was a printing of the Latin Vulgate. That was the official church-sanctioned Bible of the Catholic Church. This wasn't some rogue translation designed to challenge the establishment. It was the establishment. And you know, the story we tell leaves out so much important context. For one, Bibles in local languages already existed, and the church hadn't lost the Bible. Monks had been meticulously copying it by hand for centuries. And get this, one of the other things Gutenberg's press was used for was printing Catholic indulgences, the very things that Martin Luther would later protest against. So the tech wasn't a one-sided weapon. It actually became a powerful tool for the Catholic Church's own counter-reformation. Right, so if the story has all these massive holes in it, why in the world does it even exist? Why is this the version we all seem to know? Well, it comes down to a really fascinating human tendency. We love to read history backwards. The concept has a name, providential hindsight. It's this tendency we have to look back on events, knowing how they turned out, and seeing everything that came before as a deliberate setup for that ending. Think of it like this. It's like rewatching a movie when you already know the twist. Suddenly, all you see are the clues and foreshadowing. You can't unknow the ending. That's it, exactly. It stops being history as it was actually lived, and instead it becomes a story that's told in reverse, with a predetermined ending. And to make this story work, the myth pulls from some classic storytelling tricks. You've got the accidental hero, we love those stories. Then there's this idea of industrial grace, where we kind of mix up technological advancement with spiritual goodness. And finally, there's what you could call instrumentalization, where a real person's life gets reduced to being just a tool for a cause that came along much, much later. All right, so let's throw out the myth for a second. Let's try to understand this guy in his own time, in his own world. Let's see him for what he really was, a craftsman, not a reformer. Let's just put it plainly, who he wasn't some kind of secret proto-Protestant working to undermine the church from within. Who he actually was? All the evidence points to him being a devout Catholic, a brilliant inventor, and a savvy entrepreneur who was working for and with the church of his day. So the most important takeaway is this: his world-changing contribution. It wasn't theological. It was technological. He didn't come up with a new way to believe. He came up with a revolutionary new way to share beliefs, any beliefs. And the real impact of what he did? Man, it was so much bigger and more complicated than just one religious movement. He moved the creation of books from the quiet monastery to the bustling marketplace. He turned sacred texts, which were once priceless, unique objects, into mass-produced items. And in doing so, he democratized information for everyone. It was a tool that powered the Reformation for sure, but it also powered the Catholic Counter-Reformation that pushed back. And that's really what this all boils down to, isn't it? The story of Gutenberg is this incredible case study in how we can take a complex person from the past and sand them down into a simple hero for a story we want to tell now. Which leaves us with a pretty big question. How often do we do that? How often do we reshape the past just to make it fit the tidy stories we want to believe today?